And we will watch.
It's not started.
Will you help me watch that chat?
Yeah. And who starts it? Well, it's gonna say recording started.
And that's what I'm hoping.
We'll email back forward and tell me what to say. I just want you to talk about something on the year, the thing you're working on.
You ready? What time is it? 8:29. We've got 20.
Okay. How you doing? Good to see you, man.
Yeah, the sound should be on.
Yeah, just kind of, yeah. We'll go that
Sometime. I mean, it's been range 60.
And then, they really do, I'm gonna allow quiet questions. You ready? So can I get everybody's attention, please? We're gonna get started this morning. I know. So Pete, I wanted to welcome everybody, everybody that was able to make it in person as well as virtually on Zoom to our local legislative briefing this morning. And we're very fortunate this morning to have Representative Bob Ramsey as well as Jerome with us this morning. Fortunately, Senator Art Swan was not able to make it this morning. I'd like to thank our sponsorships, Twin City Dealership, Blount Memorial Hospital, LDA Engineering, First Horizon, as well as City of Maryville. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you supporting Blount County Chamber and the partnership. Just a few administrative items. The people that are in person, when you exit, please exit the way you came in this morning, through the courtyard, through the back of the building. And then the individuals we have on Zoom, just from a question standpoint, please ask your questions through chat. Stay muted the whole time. And please ask your questions throughout the presentations of Jerome and Bob Ramsey. In person, just raise your hand, and as they're going, please ask your questions as they're speaking as well. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it over to Bob Ramsey first and then to Jerome and they're going to give you just kind of an update on what's going on in Nashville. And then any questions that y'all have during that time, please ask them to us. So I'd like to welcome and get started with Bob Ramsey. Thank you.
Greetings and thanks for all of you being here. Thank you for those that are online here today, being interested in the community. I know the difficulties in our present economics and social issues and health issues have made everybody keenly aware and interested in what's going on. Russ, I appreciated we know there's health issues about. Russ called me this morning and said, I've got a health question for you. And I said, well, just shoot away. You know, we need something to talk about. Everybody's worried. Everybody's under a lot of stress. He said, well, what lays on the ocean floor and twitches? And I thought, well, now wait a minute, this is kind of a trap. So it turns out it's a nervous wreck.
Oh, my gosh.
Russ knows these things. But we do face serious issues economically. Jerome and I and Art work really well together, and we get lots of questions, lots of issues that come up about the current status of the federal programs, the CARES Act, and I have to admit that most of the time we're in the dark until we're told from Washington what's going to happen. I want all of you to be as attendant as you can to the Chamber of Commerce. They have windows and websites and portals that will keep you up to date with what you need to be doing for these PPP funds, these CARES Act benefits that you get. We have to be really careful that your grants don't turn into loans, and so please stay current with all that's going on. When in the first round of PPP, the big companies had a great stake in that. Now they're getting it down to the folks that really need it in small companies. So please be aware, please stay in touch, and if you can't use that computer to stay online with the changes, well, go find you an 8-year-old down the street. Okay. That's what they tell me at the Capitol all the time. Say, can't you find a child in your neighborhood to do this for you? No, the proposed budget in our State of the State message that we had, revenues and expectations have been high. Even here locally, I talked to the local assessor of property, and he said that the revenues have been actually above what they expected, above normal. At some point, that's going to change. We've been warned that when the CARES programs that are coming down from the federal government change, that there may be some issues that we're going to have to deal with. But right now, the state of Tennessee is in better shape than almost any other state per capita. So I think that gives us all a lot to hope for, a lot of security. The CARES has been a lifeline. And we certainly need to stay on top of it. Get a lot of calls from landlords worried about the foreclosures and evictions. I think that's been extended to March. Don't know what's going to happen after that. But that's probably going to be one of the determining factors in what kind of a precipice we come to economically. And I think we need to stay up with it. We're always interested in automobiles here because of the industry that surrounds Blount County, and I'm told that there are going to be some moves to prioritize electric automobiles in the future. That's going to require some changes, and we've got a great economic development program in the state, and Brian Daniels with the partnership here, and we're making plans to maybe see some transition in that as far as Blount County is concerned. This year, the governor has emphasized there's going to be a broadband push. One of the education is extremely in transition service that we provide to our citizens. And the big issue is, sure, we can go out and televise these classes, but when 25% of our folks don't get online, then that's impossible. And we were told yesterday from the Department of Education that all but just a very few schools are open, either with a mixed plan or just strictly face-to-face across the state. So we have actually gone ahead of most of the states in the percentage of our schools that are meeting in class. great thing. It's a great thing for the parents, it's a great thing for the economy. It gives us some hope that there will be stability in this year. The state of the state tells us that there's going to be a lot of assessments on how to help business, how to help utilities, where we stand with them. The focus this year is pretty much on good policy. The administration has lots of lawsuits, lots of bills that concern many issues. I had lawsuits down here on one of them, but frivolous lawsuits as far as the government is concerned. We are seeing some addressing of voting changes. I know here in Blount County, we've made some preliminary moves to change our voting practices, and I think that's worth a lot of effort and publicity, a lot of effort of getting involvement and engagement in the community. The health, of course, being a huge issue, I will tell you that as of February 28th, the state has recommended that long-term health care facilities open their doors to visitation. Well, I don't say that. The state didn't recommend that they do that. The state recommended that they use alternative guidelines for opening visitation. So that means that no longer do they have to adhere to any guidelines coming from the past. So my estimation is that with the discretion of the facility, those are going to change as of 28. We have lots of issues. Our hospital's always underwater as far as competition coming in from outside the county population. We're going to be dealing with some certificate of needs issues and the hospital assessments that actually give them the operating funds. We have, I don't know if you've seen in the news, we have some vaccine bills that are going to deal with mandatory vaccines in the future, mandatory authority from boards of health, and you're welcome to weigh in at any time during the legislative procedure the next few months. One of the issues that we're trying to deal with is loss of medical care workers. We're seeing some difficulties in getting people to sign up for these programs. As we move on into dealing with education, we had a special session here about 3 weeks ago. It had particularly 3 subjects in it that are going to be extremely important to our parents. I think one of the big shockers this last year is how essential the fabric of our education system is for parents. And so because of the issues in opening and closing schools, we've seen some huge concerns from the parents that have people leaving the workforce, lots of difficulties with child care, lots of difficulties with stress and depression and mental health behavior problems that we're seeing crop up, and know that they're going to be with us for a while. And certainly the governor is trying to take that into account. He is given quite a bit more money to agencies and programs that deal with mental issues in school-age children. So as far as I'm concerned, the special session was pretty much 100% useful and effective. Our superintendents here were not happy with some parts of it. They told me to vote against it. And so it's just an example. We do listen, and I ask you to stay engaged. The regional legislative agenda, I know most of you are highly involved and stay in touch with the Chamber of Commerce here. And we're interested in Tennessee right to work. I think this is going to become a part of the Constitution. I think we're making the last move this year. We are doing away with the professional privilege tax. I think the governor has allocated the final funds that are going to eliminate that for professions, specific professions. The infrastructure and technical training have not gone off the radar, and the governor, along with the CARES Act money, is going to give us some help in some specific projects. We did, our office yesterday morning discussed with us the fact that the federal government is going to allocate what will be a total for Tennessee of somewhere around $4.2 to $4.4 billion over the next 2 years to use in our school system. That can be used for capital projects, building, and so the interesting part of it is we as legislators and the state government don't get any chance to require specific spending practices. So we can only make recommendations to the local the school department, the local education authorities. So please, if you're involved in education, please make these plans carefully and appropriately. Money has to be spent or it goes back by September of 2023. So the federal government is interested in the issues that have been brought up. There's lots of legislation this year. The government's executive order, which I think we're somewhere around 80 or 90 at the moment, that comes so fast you can hardly keep track of it. But so many things have been addressed, like telemedicine and issues with licensure and education. So many things have changed with the executive orders that are going to make a lot of them permanent. Two very, very drastic ends of the spectrum. We're going to make telemedicine practices. We're going to extend them into the future that have been ordered to be changed in the pandemic. On the other spectrum, we're going to extend for 3 years the very popular practice of selling Top Coast curbside. So, you know, it's a wide range of interest. And these things have kind of opened Pandora's box. The pandemic has kind of opened that Pandora's box for us, and seeing things that are going to be addressed will be helpful for the future. That pretty much is broadband, and we've got issues coming up about Oak Ridge Airport, and probably will have a bill this year again on the elected superintendent. So it's in some sense it's the same old. In other senses, we've got issues that are far-reaching and give us a chance really to bring some stability. And I don't want you to think that nobody's watching, because the federal government has been very attentive to the state of Tennessee and the Tennessee state government. We're trying to make sure that we've got those answers.
Bob, I had a question for you. It has to do with vaccines.
Yep.
And manufacturers. Is there anything in the works to classify manufacturers as essential for vaccine purposes?
I've had I think 7 letters so far from local companies that are interested in the justification that their employees in the first portion of the shutdowns, their employees were designated as essential workers. So that they, in the face of all of the uncertainty about the disease, they had to come into work. The employers had to make massive equipment, personal protective equipment investments, and to make this happen. Denso did some very creative things with their salary for people that couldn't come in, had health issues, and it was quite an investment for our company. So we come around to vaccine time, and guess who is not essential in being covered by vaccines? So they're thrown in with the general population as far as age and predetermined factors. So I've sent all of those letters through our channels to the Department of Health. That's what they told me to do. They told me they were coming, and so I have not had a specific word about any of those companies or the companies in general, except that things are working better in the federal level for manufacturing and the federal level for dispensing the vaccine. And it was terrible at first. The local Blount Memorial Hospital has made every effort to become the center of vaccinations, which typically they tell me that they give 35,000 vaccines for flu a year, and the health department only gives 5. So who does the state designate as the center of vaccination? The health department. So I've tried to point up the fallacy of that, and I don't know, Don, if anybody's gotten back to you or the Department of Health or whatever, but it's been chaotic. It's been chaotic in your businesses, your education of your children, health care, elective services, and it's no different in the vaccine and the vaccine distribution. All of the bold faces that we saw beaming in Washington back in November telling us that everything was under control, they're all gone. So it's fallen to what I think is a credible effort to dispense the vaccine, and all of those 7 companies have offered to set up vaccine clinics for their own employees, and I let the Department of Health know that. Let the Department of Health know that we could send all our vaccines to the hospital and be much more effective. But anyway, that's where we stand as far as expectations. Every week you call them as, oh, it's fixed, and it will be eventually. But and I think the expectations that the general public was going to be covered sometime in August or September, I think those have been changed to April. So I'm expecting better. And once again, all of you out there that are over 65 and calling us and telling us you need the vaccinations, there again, stay on the portals. I've got people in my district that went to Athens, went to South Carolina, went to Florida, and I just tell them keep in touch with Jerome County and Sevier County and all these other places, and it works. Sometimes they get success, and so that's another reason that you need to stay in touch. Did I answer your question well? I mean, I wish, from day one, from March of last year, the chain of command has been so fuzzy, and it usually typically comes down to we're waiting on the federal government. So that's all I know to tell you. And let me tell you, I hate the word unprecedented because it gives people that are in the chain of command and leadership like us, it gives us something to hide behind. And there's really nothing to hide behind in a situation like this, except the fact that we're trying to do the best that we can. But unprecedented doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doing better.
Thank you. Do we have any, we have a question, and one thing I'd like to ask, I believe the people on Zoom are having trouble hearing us, so to make sure we speak up when we're talking, okay? Thank you.
So, Representative Moon and Representative Ramsey, I want to thank you for your service. And Representative Ramsey, I especially thank you for fielding questions regarding the differences in essential workers during the early stages of the pandemic and during the vaccination process. Because I know from the company perspective, we've struggled to explain that. So some of our people do call you. And so I want to thank you for trying to explain that to them all.
You did a great job. I applaud them, though they have been a sterling example. And as we move into our transition to electric, I think VW and Spring Hill are both headed for electric cars, and it's going to affect everybody. And we'll be here trying to do our best.
Do we have any other questions? Yes.
You mentioned something about mandatory vaccines or legislation about mandatory vaccines. Could you speak a little more to that, please?
Yeah, I think we set up the sheriff's department at the exit here, so you all got to take that. I'm subcommittee chairman of the health committee, and we had the expectation that there were going to be 7 vaccine bills trying to deal with mandatory vaccines, and this is not a new thing. Since 1990, when I first began to serve on the county commission, we've had anti-vaccine coalitions in the community. And so anytime a vaccine comes up, smallpox, measles, we've seen these illnesses pop their heads up over the last few decades. And anytime that comes up, there's a great furor about mandatory vaccines. We're dealing with 2 of those bills at the moment, which are probably the 2 most likely to be discussed. One of them is for the COVID vaccine only. And we got a request, it says, no, never, ever, no matter what the governor, no matter what the president does, no, never, never COVID vaccine mandate. What it did, it took our hospitals out of any ability to mandate COVID vaccine for their employees. So on behalf of Blount Memorial Hospital, we filed an amendment that took the government hospitals out of it. And so that's in limbo right now, trying to make that permanent portion of that bill. And if it is, I think the bill will probably pass, so that no matter the determination, no matter the emergency from the governor, there's not going to be a mandated COVID vaccine. The other one says that there will be, and there's a lot of confusion about this, and we've got thousands of emails, phone calls.
If you're okay, I think Jerome's got it, gave me, so do you mind for him to?
I will interject, Bob's next door neighbor, Bob's next to Chairman Ramsey is Bud Halsey. That's Bud's bill on mandatory vaccines. Not to make them mandatory, give you the right to opt out. And morning coffee discussions are a lot different now when we filed the amendment to allow special hospitals to manage to require vaccination, especially in a time like now. The learning loss issue was really what prompted the special session. He spoke about the $4.2 billion that we found out about basically yesterday from Commissioner Schwinn. The day before that, the afternoon before that's when all of our school superintendents in Blount County found out they have to have their plan finished, completed, and submitted to the Department of Tennessee by March 15th. That's the day the president think still signed the pandemic relief bill. And we asked about how do we have any idea how much we're going to get? There's been 2 rounds of stimulus, basically. They call ES1 and ES2. Add those 2 together for Blount County and then double it. That'll be an estimate of what will be coming in. It's a very large number. But the state can only, our direction on it is to see if it meets existing law. Other than that, we have no input as to what the plan can be. So it's up to our school boards to figure out how they're going to deploy this money. It has to be spent by September 30, 2023. So if you build a building that's 2/3 complete on September 30, 2023, it's not finished, you're going to have a 2/3 finished building. So it's really important that these things are looked at and timed out. We all know too that there were a lot of communications already from consultants. Everybody's got the briefcase going to school boards wanting to do a consulting contract on how to spend this money. And they couldn't say it enough. This is one-time money. It's a very large pool of money. So make sure it's measured, put with one-time expenditures. To cover a couple of things that might hit us locally, and I don't laugh at the first one. TWRA, there's a bill in, the farmer found a couple of cameras on his farm. It's like, what are these? Where did these come from? The TWRA come in and put cameras on their property, unbeknownst to property owner. And there's a bill in now that's going to require a warrant. If TWRA wants to come in and surveil a piece of property, they need to find a property owner and let them know and have a warrant, due process before they can come in and do that. TWRA has a lot of extraordinary powers. And this is probably one of the first steps to address that issue. A number of veterans bills, last time we got together, we spoke about a couple of veterans bills that we're carrying. Terry Brams was on just a moment ago. The Strong Act, which is a tuition reimbursement program for our National Guard, Air Guard, and Army Guard. It provides 120 semester hours of reimbursement on an undergraduate degree. And it sunsets June 30, 2021, just a few months away. A lot of our Guard members have gotten a college degree from this program. Not only do we want to roll that out to 2025, we also, the money's already been appropriated, so it's in the budget. We want to provide 40 semester hours reimbursement so our young captains that become lieutenant colonels and colonels someday. Air National Guard, we've had a tornado, we've had pandemic, we've had social unrest. Our local Black Hawk squadron deployed to Kosovo for 10 months. They just got back a few months ago, right before Christmas. Our National Guard, especially in this area, have gone above and beyond. The other part of the Strong Act update is to provide 24 semester hours for certificate programs at our TCATs and our community colleges. I'm sure Terry Brams was on the call earlier. I'm sure that's going to be something that she'll be very interested in. Also in the area of veterans benefits, state employees that have a disability, service-connected disability of 30% or more, with this legislation will provide them up to 36 hours for their appointments at the Veterans Administration for that service-connected disability. The idea there is so they don't have to use their personal days and sick leave days. The way the bill's written right now, it accrues, that's going to be amended. It'll be, you use it during that year, you use it, you don't, it doesn't accrue. That wasn't the intent is to accrue additional hours. The intent was not to have to use your personal sick leave days to go take care of a disability issue that you had to service your country. Home builders brought this bill a year ago. I know Bob's up to date on it, where you can pre-sell lots in a subdivision before the plat's approved. And that would raise a lot of eyebrows, but it is moving, the bill is moving. But the key thing to remember there, no money, nothing can happen. It's just like a contract pending when the time comes in the plat, nothing can be, no money can change hands, no closing can take place until the plat's approved and recorded. That's the key trigger there. We're working on, and the comptrollers reached out to local government to do a comprehensive bill on remote meetings. I think one thing that Mayor Mitchell and others experienced during the pandemic is a new way of holding meetings. And I'm very, very, I'll just say proud of what one county did in that they provided in the chamber, in the commission chamber, microphone in place for the public to come and address the commissioners, the chair and the clerk, and maybe a couple other commissioners were in the chamber, and the others were on Zoom. Not everyone can, myself included, Chairman Ramsey alluded to the fact that you need an 8-year-old to help you out sometimes. Has access to broadband, a smartphone, a tablet, or a desktop computer. One county figured that out. Just like you go to the courthouse the third Thursday of the month, there's a microphone there, you can come and address the Board of Commissioners. This is going to be looked at. I have a caption bill, and Deborah Fisher from Open Records, and a lot of people are going to be involved in setting up a framework to continue to have remote meetings after the pandemic. Dave Wright has a bill in right now. He's a former Knox County Commissioner. It's in the Knoxville News Sentinel today, pretty well covered story. Deborah Fisher of the Records Board Committee is very concerned. That bill would allow someone, because of their work, because of military deployment, and they're serving as a commissioner, city council person, or in government where open meetings are required, that they could call in remotely twice a year. And that's going to be heard on Tuesday in Cities and County Subcommittee that I chair. I believe that bill will come out, go to full committee, but we've had ways that we can have call-in meetings in the law now, but the public has to be able to hear both sides. And I think Commissioner Representative Wright has thought this bill through very well, and it's going to provide the public the access they need to have both sides of the conversation. That's pretty much it. I can go on, but
I have a couple of
How's it going?
questions.
Yeah, do we have
Yeah.
any Zoom?
So one of the Zoom questions was, could you all elaborate on the broadband initiatives? Expand on that.
last session, when someone, we gave grants, some of them were federal pass-through, some of them were state grants, and they were charging the contractors sales tax. So you give a $2 million grant, they buy hardware, equipment, materials, and we turn around and take 10% of that back. So on that, we said that doesn't make sense. So we waived the sales tax on all those materials that were used to expand broadband. There's more money, and I hate to say it's sad that everything draws down money, but that's what it costs to go to these remote areas. Chairman Ramsey.
And the effort, our Swan, a couple of years ago, passed a bill to allow utility co-ops to get into the broadband business. And, but the question's always been profitability, and that's why we don't have broadband in a lot of the places that we like it, because it's hard to get in there and they can't get their money back. And so that was a bill that allowed the local utility co-ops to receive grants from the state and federal government. And those grants are available. And so that's one way that the Tennessee government is planning on encouraging local folks to get into the fray and try to make some profitability. And I think Fort Loudon is in the process at the moment.
We can have any other Zoom
Yes,
questions?
yes, I was reading it first. What do you think regarding the move from a 10K RFP threshold to a 25K being put forward?
On purchasing or voters.
Whoever posed that question on Zoom, you may just need to clarify that a little bit more. I'll ask it again.
Jerome, I think that's the, right now with where the purchasing government, we're at 10K without having to do a bids to go to 25,000.
That's coming through city county sub also, and everything from the committee members on the committee, they're very favorable. And increase, have been increased for a number of years. Not the purchasing acts, or it's time to update.
93.
Yes.
When I went to work for the county commission, I think the county budget was like 70 million. Now it's what, 200 million or something. So yeah, you gotta make some adjustments.
We don't like to talk about it. Let's keep this at the state level.
Did you want to hear about the
She said thanks.
vaccine? I mean, is that something that you're interested in? Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Did you have other questions on that?
Do you have anything else
You can talk about the vaccine, and then I do have one other question.
on Tennessee Commons?
And it's very important that we get this described, because people from all over the United States have sent us emails and texts and where we can't even, phone calls, we can't even conduct business in the office. The phone is just busy constantly. Everybody's afraid that there's going to be a loss of the exclusions for taking the vaccine, which are religious and medical. And there's a federal law that says if you have over 15 employees, you can never, under any circumstances, no matter what the governor says or anybody else, you can never lose those exclusions. So what this bill came in and was filed for, it says that under no circumstances can you lose your exclusions for medical or spiritual reasons, religious reasons, to refuse a vaccine. And it's not a stringent effort to do that. So, you know, on the face value of it, it sounded good. It just affects small businesses, 15 and under. Well, also in the bill, we found out that it would prevent the sheriff from questioning people about having the vaccine if they came to work there. It would prevent Don from questioning people or interviewing them about how they were protected. It would take away, right now there's a criminal act against falsifying a vaccine report. It would eliminate that. So if you wanted to fill out your own vaccine report and use it in school or wherever, you could do it. It would be any penalty. So we're in the process of looking at that bill again, trying to fix those issues. And but everybody that writes us letters, they're very confused, and they think that we're against the Christian church, and we're never gonna let anybody, maintain their, religious reason not to have a vaccine. And that's absolutely, I mean, the federal government protects that. So anyway, I hope that's explained to you. I hope there's just a real big misunderstanding on
I had does anybody else have a question out here in person? Do you have any more on Zoom?
So, no, but I did just have a quick one. So if you're a business though, if you're a business owner, you can mandate that vaccine, right, as a business owner?
it.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
Perfect. I have a question that's dealing with COVID as well as the Tennessee Promise. Is there anything in legislative to extend the gap year for students to use the money from Tennessee Promise either?
I put my legislative assistant on this, with Tammy and I this morning. I've been texting back and forth, waiting, and he's been researching it in Rochelle. Right now, we can't find anything, and bill filing deadline was Wednesday at 4 o'clock. That doesn't mean there isn't a caption bill. The bill that's put in that opens certain sections of the law dealing with scholarships and tuition reimbursement's been filed. It's very generic. And then the amendment that's written will address that. It actually becomes the bill. So there's no way, there's always that wild card out there.
And then, of course, there's always, and if there is a question about that, everybody is so supportive of that process and the effect and the success of it. I don't think anything is going to challenge being able to make that change.
Yeah. One issue that came up, I know Alcoa High School in Dole City State received a large GIVE grant, Governor's Investment Vocational Education. There's been some discussion with Finance Administration. There's a deadline on the spending, and we're trying to work to make sure that if that looks like it's going to hold, take back some of that money, or that money can't be used. I think it was like over 800,000 Alcoa High School, or Alcoa City Schools, that we're some way we can extend that. Whether it's going to be, most likely it will be legislative because it's in the budget. If it sunsets, then we'll have to extend that to General Assembly.
Anything else? Do you anything from Zoom?
Jerome, Bob, it was brought to my attention yesterday that this is the largest number of teachers to retire at one time across the state. PCRS is actually, it's a big deal. I mean, this is the hugest population of teachers to retire at one time across the state. And my people that were talking to me about this, is this going to create, are we going to end up in a real shortage for teachers, for the systems across the state with this kind of retirement influx going into, that's something, I know this is just new and it's just kind of the life that there's that many teachers that are absolutely just retiring and leaving. What's the thoughts on that? Because I know some people are starting to become concerned that it's going to be a real void that's going to be left for the school systems across the state of Tennessee.
Leadership in the House, I do know, is aware of that. Leader Lambert and even Speaker Sexton, but we heard over and over, this is one-time money. This is one-time money. It's a huge amount of one-time money coming, but I'm not. Some of that probably would be deployed in search for employment search and other things to fill that need. Same thing with emergency services. We just in the day's paper early retirements of police officers at the county level. Basically buyouts, but yet those people have to be replaced. And right now Memphis has 500 vacancies for police officers, city of Memphis. Part of that's because they have a residency requirement that you live in the city of Memphis if you're a police or fireman. Garyville, Vanderbilt, and Senate, Brian Kelsey's. And Garyville said if there's a to ban that policy, you cannot require a police officer to live in the city where they serve. So that's, yes, TCRS though is the best managed pension plan in the United States. I think there's one other in South Dakota, and but that is a problem, and it is a problem that's known in the legislature.
In healthcare workers as well, I was told by Helen Rossman Nab that the parity of the salaries in counselors hasn't essentially exceeded inflation for the last 10, 20 years. Same way with teachers. I mean, we've given more money, 2-4%, but it hasn't kept up with inflation. So teachers are making the same or less than what they did 10, 20 years ago. And I think that may be a question for local governments. The infrastructure, the services that we provide to our citizens are all in peril because of finances. And you know better than anybody else the cost of services. And so I think we're just going to be playing whack-a-mole. And the government can only print so much money, and we're just going to have to put our money where our mouths are and try to keep up. And maybe the pandemic maybe have opened our eyes to many things that will help that. But I think we do have to guard against I guess our investment in infrastructure, investment in agencies and services, whether it's the courthouse or schoolhouse or whatever. And maybe we need to think differently about the way we allocate our funds. But it's healthcare, you name it. And where these people are going to get their jobs, I don't know. But there's got to be some place that's doing well. Maybe it's our factory. That's the greener pasture.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from here? Zoom questions?
No other Zoom questions. I did want to thank you both because we call you a lot, we text you a lot, we email you a lot.
You ask a lot of health questions.
And I appreciate it because you always respond to us and our members appreciate that.
One bill I just thought of, and it started last year, it didn't make it. You know, like a bad penny, it's come back, has to do with right-of-ways. And when a developer takes his plat to planning and go through, and there's certain right-of-ways that are dedicated at that time. Well, we have a member that feels very strongly that that's stealing private property. So for 100 years, the government's been taking property away. In the last 12 months, if this bill becomes law, it would be about $900,000 of your money, taxpayers' money, be required to buy these right-of-ways. And right now, it appears that this bill will get the full committee. And if it does, because, my opinion, just my opinion, is that this is not a healthy thing. The government, they say, well, the government should pay for this. Well, who is the government? Everyone in this room pays taxes as the government. So, obviously, I'm not in favor of it, but it's, and I don't know where Chairman Ramsey stands on it, but I'll call him out here.
I do what Jerome tells me.
No. Just straight, that's not his answer. But I think we have to be aware, sometimes people think, well, it's government overreach. We need to step back sometime and ask ourselves, well, who is the government? Who is going to pay for this? And it's going to be each one that pays taxes. I know the person's concerned. He bought a piece of property, subdivided off 2 lots. And he even said, I got more for those 2 lots than I paid for the whole piece of property. And I don't think it's right. I have to give up 10 feet on that piece of property. I should be able to sell that to whatever county that is 20 years in the future. And how do you track that liability in the future? But anyway, thank you for let me put that in, put it on people's minds.
I'd like to, as we come to a conclusion, I want to say too, as Bob has, Ms. Tammy, thank you. Thank you for your all's time. Thank you for your service. Thank you for representing Blount County and being leaders and setting a path for our future. I appreciate both of you guys for doing it.
Senator Swan is a real key part of this team.
Yeah. We have a great team. We're fortunate here in Blount County. As this is a great community, as each one of y'all know, and I'd like to tell each of you in person, thank you for being here. The people that are here virtually through Zoom, thank you for attending and taking interest in our community and keeping it great. Just want to finish with the people that are in person, please exit through the courtyard. And again, we're concluded, and thank you again. Appreciate you guys.